My name's Luke or Luca. People call me both of those things. And I'm pretty sure my pronouns are he, him. And I like plants and like fish stuff.
Amazing.
Yeah.
My name's Greyson. My pronouns I also think are he, him. I'm from Oklahoma, so kind of a little similar to Utah, right?
Equally boring.
I also like plants and probably have legitimately in my house back home, probably have 30 to 35 houseplants.
Dang.
And they all have names.
I haven't named any of my plants.
Oh, mine get like crazy. It's like I have Pikachu, I have Chromatica,
Whoa.
I have like Rihanna, we have a Doja Cat plant. I mean,
Okay,
it's absolutely obscene, insane.
I know. I need to start doing that. When I started like actually getting into plants like a while ago, I would make like little name tags for them. But I was really bad at taking care of plants, so they would die within like weeks. And so I
just need to find the right plant.
I know.
You know?
Exactly. And I always thought succulents would be so easy to take care of, and
they're really not.
they're so hard.
I know, they are hard.
I hate things.
Okay, first off, tell me where you're from again.
Heber.
Okay, and so that's how far out? You said like 40 minutes outside from Salt Lake City?
Yeah.
Okay, what is it like there?
It's the scenery is cool.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really pretty. Culture isn't awesome.
Okay.
I'm sure it's the same with Oklahoma.
Yeah, of course. Is it a lot of religious people, lots of conservative people?
Yes,
there,
like
right?
and like cowboys.
Okay. And so what is your story of I mean, you know, how was it not only coming to know that you were queer, but also how has the process been being out there?
I'm never usually like outwardly like called out and like bullied for it.
Okay.
But I know people that like talk about it behind my back and are like, oh yeah, like I don't like him, like because I'm gay. So like I just, it's annoying to always have to be like really conscious of like what you do around everyone. Like, oh, like am I acting too gay around this person? Like, will this like make them uncomfortable or like make me look weird or something? So it's definitely not great.
I see. When did you come to know that you were gay?
I don't really have like a specific like time in mind where I was like, oh yeah, no, like I'm gay. Mm-hmm. I just feel like I kind of always like suspected it about myself.
I can relate to that. So my story was, okay, so when I was 12 years old, I posted this video up on YouTube. It went crazy viral.
I saw that video.
Thanks. How old are you now?
I'm 16.
Okay, you're 16. So that video would have come out when you were 4. Oh my gosh. Wow. I'm ancient. Wow. Okay. Get it together, G.
Did this just send you into a midlife crisis?
That kind of did, actually, yes. The fact that you were 4 years old when that video came out. Okay, so that happened. I was in middle school at the time in 6th grade. I got pulled out of school. I started doing like online like homeschool so I could tour and stuff. I got a record deal. And what was crazy about kind of my story is I often think because I had grown up in a suburb outside of Oklahoma City. It was probably very similar to where you grew up, which was, you know, I don't think it was outwardly homophobic, but it felt like, by the way, too, queer wasn't a word that we used back then, right? You were either gay or you were lesbian if you were anything, right? There was no acknowledgement of non-binary, of trans, of anything of that nature, of people being bi. That like, of course, existed back then, but it didn't exist within the narrative, right?
Right.
And I constantly think because I spent, 6 years of my adolescence away from Oklahoma and I was able to travel and see all these things. But I think about what it would have been like had I gone through, a normal school process and been back there. And I came out when I was 16. And it was like a light bulb for me. When I realized I was gay, everything made so much sense all of a sudden. I was like, that's why Born This Way hits the way that it does. And that's why all of these things make sense, right? And it was it was an okay process with me and my family for the most part. But I really do look back at that time and I'm so in awe of you, being 16 years old and already so confident, because I think if I had been in Oklahoma, I really don't know if I would have been able to come out. I feel like I would have been closeted up until like going to college. Like literally, just because it's probably like easier, right? To just like suppress it and to move on. Not the right thing to do by any means, but probably just easier. So I admire you so much.
Thank you.
Seriously.
Do you think like being queer in the music industry has like helped or like hurt your progress like as an artist, or like how do you think it's affected that?
You know, it's funny. In so many ways. So when I came out, when I was 16 to my friends and family, right? And I waited like 2 or 3 years before I came out publicly. And the reason why is, if I'm being completely honest, I wasn't worried about I knew it would be accepted, right? I knew my fans would accept it and people would be kind. But I was more worried about whether or not it would take away from my artistry. Meaning, would all of a sudden I just be known as, oh yeah, he's the gay musician, when I really wanted to be known as just a musician, right? Like I almost wanted like my sexuality to be like the second thing that's used to describe me. And so it took me a minute. And then once I came out, I realized like how it was so much bigger than just me. All of a sudden now my shows are a place where people can really, come for refuge, can come for relatability. They're able to live at this 90-minute show as their true self. And then I felt really stupid for waiting that long to come out publicly, right? But I always remind people too, it's like your story is so individualistic to you, right? Like I can't imagine, I guess, okay, I have a question for you. So with social media right now, right? Like how has that affected your process as a queer individual? And do you ever feel overwhelmed by how much just there is constantly floating around you, kind of almost this pressure, right?
Yeah.
Do you feel that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I almost think of it as like almost like a claustrophobic thing of like how much of everything there is.
Yeah, of course.
I don't think I'm doing a good job at explaining that, but like, yes.
Yeah. I think what's interesting to me about social media now is I feel like and again, this is what I try to remind my fans and people that come to my show, is that it's such a beautiful thing that there is so much, queer content now, and that there's so much within the narrative. However, I worry sometimes that younger people might feel this pressure because they see these people in LA and California, or in LA and New York, that are able to be like, come out, do whatever you need to do, be your most confident self. And it's like sometimes that might not be like the safest thing to do. It might not be the thing that's right for that person in the moment. So I try to remind my fans that everything is individual, right? Like you have to be able to kind of carve your own story and to know what's right for you at the time. Because in a place like where you're from, like it might, as messed up as this sounds, it might be better for a trans person to wait until they're in a safe environment to come out, because it could lead to them getting beaten up, or, all these different things that I think we're not talking enough about, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Last year there was this gay couple in the halls, and like I think they were literally just like holding hands or like hugging or something, and this guy came and like started beating one of them up, and like the principal came in and like totally took the like offender guy's side. Like he was like, well, you guys just shouldn't have been like rubbing it in his face or whatever. Like of course he didn't. Like
way.
Yeah, like maybe for a lot of people in Heber it's better to maybe like keep it to yourself until you're like sure you're safe. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean. Oh, so let me ask you, so when something like that happens at your school, what was your immediate feeling? Like does that make you fearful? Does that make you sad? Does it make you upset? Does it make you angry? What was your immediate reaction to seeing that in real time?
Well, I don't have a partner, so I was like, okay, well, this sounds so weird, but I was like, okay, well, at least I'm safe, because like I'm not really gonna be like showing affection to like my partner in the halls or anything. And then like my second thought was like, oh my gosh, like I hate this. This is so sad. Like we should be able to. They should have just been able to be affectionate with their partners on campus without being like scared for their well-being.
Of course.
And like I have so many friends that clothes are such an important part of like their identity, and like this guy sent an email about like oh, like harnesses and like these dog collars that people are wearing are so disgusting and they need to be banned. He sent this to the principal, and I don't think the principal responded, luckily, but like it was basically calling them disgusting. I mean, one of my friends, Danny, walked by this group of like pretty conservative like cowboys, and one of them pointed to this group of like LGBTQ kids, like the people that went to the GSA and stuff. They were standing in a group in the commons. They were like, and he said, if I was a school shooter, I'd go for them first.
Wow.
So, yeah, like it definitely has an effect. I don't know.
But so even through all of that, it sounds like though that you do have a community of people that you can rely on and trust where you're at, right?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the kids at my school are luckier than most other queer kids in the U.S. because there is a support system. Like we have a GSA, like there is a group of kids that are out and like proud of it.
A GSA too that you started, right?
I started the one in the middle school.
Okay, but still, that's a huge deal.
Thank you.
Yeah, it is. That's so crazy. I can't like, yeah, it's just, it's tough. Like I think about constantly, you know, and again, me growing up was so different. It was so weird because I was like an artist, right? I was a kid traveling, doing all these things. But I think about people your age right now, and I feel like this motherly instinct of just wanting to protect everyone. And I think it takes people like you and the friends that you have to keep on going. Like you cannot give up like the fight. Even in Oklahoma where I'm from, like, you know, we're still to this day fighting for trans rights. I'm still going to protest. I'm still trying to talk to organizations and trying to do stuff. And like, you know, in the same way that when I talk to older queer people, they I mean, literally will bring up stories about like Stonewall and similar things to this nature, right? And it's like, this will always be a constant fight. It's just always going to look different. And I do believe the progression line is moving up, but I don't think it's like this. I think it's,
yeah.
Does that make sense?
Like it's two steps forward, one step back.
Yes, exactly. And so you just have to keep on going. And my God, thank God your town has you. Seriously.
Thank you.
No, seriously.
Thank you. Yeah, like it's obviously better than it used to be, but like there are things happening that I never expected to happen, like new legislation, not even like reversing legislation that like hurts, that like helps LGBTQ people. Like they're creating new laws that like didn't the law just get passed in Utah that prevents like trans athletes from competing in their sports?
Yeah.
Like I didn't even think that was gonna happen.
Like, of course.
Like so we're making so much progress, but like on areas we didn't even know we needed to make progress on. Like there are just so many things popping up all the time that makes it so difficult.
Okay, so you're 16.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so tell me about, what is some of the music that you're listening to? Who are some of the queer artists that you really love besides me? Of course. Of course. Who are you listening to?
I don't.
And they don't have to be queer, by the way.
Like I don't know if I listen to that many queer artists or like outwardly like queer artists that's like, oh yeah, like
Can I tell you something? So one of the biggest things that and I remember this a part of my own personal journey, is I felt so disconnected to gay culture when I was your age, because I loved Incubus and I loved like Metallica, and I was like, I had a 1966 Mustang at the time, and I was just this little punk kid, and I loved like rock and metal music, and all of my, you know, other friends or anyone who else I knew who was gay was like watching Drag Race and doing all these things, and I was like, but I like The Sopranos. Like it was such a weird thing for me, and so that's like I think, okay, so tell me, what do you like?
I definitely agree, because like rap is, I listen to a lot of rap, and like a lot of my queer friends are like, why? Like that's gross, like unless it's like Nicki Minaj or something, you know? But like, so yes, it's very different from a lot of like other LGBTQ people. Yeah. I don't know, like my friends are always like, don't let Luke have the Ogs.
Yeah.
Like fine.
But that's good though, because again, that proves, and I think this is something that I always try to like I said, try to tell my fans is it's all individualized, right? Like you don't have to adhere to every part of the culture. This is your story. You can carve whatever lane you want, and you have the freedom and the autonomy and the right to do that. That's the important thing, right? Is that this is your story. So that's cool. I like that.
Which, yeah, and I think that's a really good, like, music is a really good analogy for, like, how every queer kid can, like, be themselves. And, like,
Of course. If you listen to rap, do you listen to Nas? Do you like Nas?
I love Nas. Like, yes, of course I have to keep some of the OG queer community people in there, like Nicki Minaj, of course, Doja Cat. I don't think she's queer. I don't know if she's queer, but she's big in the queer community.
Psycho.
Of
That's
course,
what she is.
yes, of course. But then I listen to like Mac Miller, who talks about like straight sex all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, like
Nice.
Of course I keep the OGs in there. But.
Good. Okay, that's interesting.
Oh wait, actually, I had a question. Okay, I remember my cool question.
Nice.
Okay, so you said you don't want to be remembered as like, oh, like it's this gay artist, and you don't want to be like known as that, and you instead would want to be known as like this musical artist who happens to be gay.
Yeah.
Do you think that you like your paparazzi video? Do you think like you're not trying to get away from that maybe, but
Yeah.
do you wish you were like? Is that what like a lot of people are like? Oh, yeah, like a paparazzi kid.
Yeah.
Like, do you wish like you could get away from being known like only for the paparazzi thing, and obviously not known only for the paparazzi.
No,
you know what I mean?
but of course, it's a very fair question.
As much as like the get away from like I'm gay.
Yeah,
you know.
So there's been like two major evolutions, I think, and you touched on both of them. So the first one was, when I was coming out, I really did think that it was gonna have to either be two worlds, right? There was like, I'm going to be known just as an artist, and then it's like I'm going to be known as the gay artist, right? What I've realized now is I actually now kind of stepping up to the plate with my fans, like I do want to go down as a person who was impactful for the queer community and at least gave queer kids a space to come and, like, I know this sounds so cliche, but literally to worship like this. I want my show to be church. I want it to be uplifting. I want people to leave my show going, I feel confident in myself. I know who I am. I'm going to be that person. So I had to grow into that. It took me a minute. With my kid stuff, for the longest time, it bothered me so much when someone would bring up that video. And I was just it felt like this gigantic burden on my chest on everything about sing paparazzi again and how's Ellen, tell us about her, tell us about all these things. And finally, I think as I've gotten older, I've been able to take a step back and realize how just kind of funny it is and how unique it is, right? Like, I started doing this when you were 4 years old, 12 years ago. That's kind of funny. I'm only 24, right? Like, let's all laugh about it. Like, Ariana Grande was in one of my music videos before she ever put a song out. Isn't that hysterical?
Dang.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
So you basically discovered Ariana Grande.
Exactly. Thank you. Wow. Yes. Roast me for that, Twitter. Go ahead. I can take it. So I've learned to just accept a lot of these things within my life and within myself. And I think that is like the biggest trick of getting older. There's also so much of looking back, now I've been through a few different relationships in my life, right? You'll go through your fair share. It's exhausting, but everybody has to do it. But I remember trying to put on this front for a long time as a gay person. I remember like trying to hyper analyze how I wanted to be portrayed out, right? Like I was like, okay, I'm gonna be gay, but I'm gonna be like this type of gay, and I'm gonna make sure I do all these different things. As you get older, you realize that it becomes so less about that, and it really does become more of just you accepting yourself and just starting to realize that you are unique, and the things that you maybe think are annoying that you do, another person might find really endearing and really cute, and you have to accept all of this. But yeah, I was so embarrassed for the longest time. I remember going on dates and being like, oh, these guys are going to look at me and be like, it's the paparazzi kid, like all these things. Now I'm like, back off, I've learned to accept it. And so it's just what you have to do.
Is it embarrassing that 70 million people saw 12-year-old you?
Not necessarily. You know what's funny? Okay, let me put you in this position. So in the video, have you ever seen the video? It's
I have seen the
if you
video.
haven't. Okay. So you know how there's all those girls behind me, right? And one of the biggest parts of the video was like all of these girls were like, "Oh my god!" Like, oh, wow, right? What sucks about it is like two of those girls were horrible. Like they were absolute bullies. Like they were not like good people, like to my friends or to me or to anything. And then when that video came, so it would be like, think of like some people that you really dislike at your high school. It would be like all of a sudden, like the local news crew came in and they were like, "We love Greyson
Like,
so
we're best
much.
friends.
She's amazing, blah blah blah." And I'm like, "You need to get out of here." So that was kind of really funny and frustrating all at the same time. So it doesn't bother me that 70 million people have seen 12-year-old me. It bothers me that they like, don't get it twisted. A few of those people in the background
We're jerks. Yeah.
absolutely. Oh, and I keep up with them on Facebook too. They're still a little, I don't know.
Boring.
Yes, exactly. So, okay, you started a GSA when you were in 7th grade.
Yeah.
How did that go? Tell me about that.
I didn't even have the idea for it originally. Like my aunt, when I first came out, was like, "Hey, let's talk about your big announcement." I was like, "Okay." And she's like, "Why don't you start a GSA?" I'm like, "What's a GSA?" And she was like Gay Straight Alliance. I was like, "Okay, like sure, I guess." And it was at like the summer, so I kind of forgot about it until like the club rush week. Everyone was like, "Okay, like if you want to start a club, like go ahead and do that," or like in a few weeks, like sign up for whatever clubs, I guess. So I went to this awesome counselor at the middle school. I think she still works there, Mrs. Watts.
Nice.
And I was like, "Yo, like we should start a GSA." And she was like, "Oh my gosh, that's a really good idea. Like I've had experiences with LGBTQ plus and like in my family. Like I think this school really needs that." I was like, "Okay,
Nice.
awesome." So we started that, which absolutely just launched me into my phase that I'm sure like most queer like kids go through when they first come out. It's like, I'm gay and that's all I'm gonna talk about. I'm gay, and I love rainbows and gay and unicorn, like
And Doja Cat
and Doja Cat and Nicki Minaj, like so like seriously, like I would try and bring that up into every single conversation with every single person I talked to, and I'm sure it was so annoying and exhausting for like the people that I would talk to all the time because it's all I would talk about. And so like that eventually just kind of became like my whole reputation is like I started the GSA and I'm gay and I wear the same ugly blue sweater every single day.
Yeah.
Because for some reason I think I look really good in that sweater. And like that still like carries on. Like I hung out with someone, my friend Ella, recently, and she was like, "Oh yeah, like when we first started talking, I was like really unsure because people told me like you made your entire personality about being gay, and like she's bisexual, like of course she's supporting of it. She's just like I was nervous about like talking to you at first because apparently you like make your whole personality
like
about being
thing,
gay.
right?
Like my thing is being gay. It's all I'm known for. Like I'm gay first, and then I'm Luke, and then blah 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 blah. So I was like, oh yeah. So like my reputation that I so wanted in middle school, and really don't like now, precedes me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I definitely wish that it didn't have to be like that.
Do you still feel like it's like that right now?
Yes.
Okay.
A little bit. Like, I mean, obviously I'm proud of my sexuality and like I won't hide it from anyone. I'm open about it. But I just wish that wasn't all I was known for, you know?
My experience, okay, I'll share a story. So this happened last year. So this was 2021. I went to a wedding with my boyfriend. It was like my boyfriend's family, right? Really, really good people, very, very supportive people. This wedding was massive. It was like 300 people. So like there's a lot of different friends, family, just acquaintances coming in, right? So I went from the reception, I went to go use the restroom. I was in the bathroom, there was another guy there. And as I'm washing my hands, I looked at him and I'd recognized him hanging out with another group of people who I knew my boyfriend had known or whatever. So I introduced myself and I said, hey, I'm so-and-so's boyfriend. Saw you hanging out with XYZ, nice to meet you. He was probably like maybe my age, maybe a little older. He looks at me and he goes, yeah, I know all about that. Right? And I had never, it was just this blatant, like, outward thing of homophobia, right? And I really hadn't experienced that in so long. And I froze. Like, I was pretty shell-shocked. And then he just kind of kept looking at me, and then he proceeded to walk out of the room. And it was crazy because I felt like getting into my 20s was the time where I really, like, I forget I'm gay all the time. Does that make sense? Like, it just becomes like, this is like who I am, and this is what it is. And what, you know, straight people will never understand is that, you know, a moment like that all of a sudden brings it right back to home, right? Where it's like, no, you are different.
Yeah. And
society is going to remind you no matter what it is. But I guess this is all to say that, you know, an instance like that just showed me, I think, in many ways how far I had come. You know, even with something that brutal, right? And, you know, that sucked. Like, it really wasn't a good moment, but it was a reminder of the fact that, you know, I'm walking around through my life just being who I am, and not having a single, not even thinking about it, not having a single problem with it. So I feel like it comes with age, it comes with time, and it might be something that, like, hell, I don't know. I feel like, as what I'm discovering too is, like, now in my 20s, right, is like, the secret to life is you think that you're going to get older and have everything figured out. Honey. We're never going to have it figured out. And that's okay, right? That's beautiful. There's a beauty between that. I hope that translated and made sense to what you were talking about. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. Okay, nice. It'll get easier with time is what I'm trying to say.
Sick.
Yeah. I'll tell you about the first time I came here. So we're in the Encircle house right now, in Salt Lake City, in the John Williams house. So I was touring in 2019. I was playing. Have you ever been at a show at the Complex? Mm-hmm. Do you know that venue? It's a fun venue. Also, Salt Lake, man. People like to have fun here. Mm-hmm. A really good show.
Yeah, some crazy people in Utah.
And they had told me, as we were coming to Utah, they said, hey, there's this nonprofit here. It's really, really interesting. Told me about the Dan Reynolds connection, right? And so I came here not really knowing what to expect. Kind of like gotten in my email, like kind of a byline about Encircle. What I thought was so cool about this place in particular was the therapy element to everything. And the fact that they offered family therapy, right? Because I think what tends to happen is, like, you know, you strike me as someone who, you know, is fairly confident. When I'm sure when you came out, you know, you seem like you know who you are, and we're probably really proud in that. And, like, I was the same way too, but I remember having a conversation with my mom where she was fully supportive of me, but what she was really worried about was HIV, right? Like, I could see these fears when we would talk, like she had a concern about it, and it was because of different generational things, like all of these things, right? And so when they told me that they do family therapy here in Encircle, I was like, how massive of a difference would it have been if my mom could have come in and talked to someone? Like, that's huge. That's game changing. That is, like, something that, you know, I don't think any other organization right now is doing in the States. And so once I came here and saw that, I was, like, instantly hooked. And now on Saturday, I'm running in the Salt Lake Marathon to support the house, and that's been a really cool process. And yeah,
I could never.
Well, I was supposed to do a half marathon. I really busted my knee during training, so I'm only doing 6 miles on Saturday. Womp womp womp.
I couldn't do that.
but so I'm pretty like tied in now at this point. Now, how did you find out about Encircle, and when did you start coming here?
It was when me and Miss Watts were, like, planning some of the GSA meetings, she was like, okay, like, we don't even need to come up with our own things to talk about anymore. Like, Encircle's given us, like, this curriculum, like, finally. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, that's so cool. Because, like, it was a lot of work to have to come up with, like
what to talk about.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
for sure.
It was a pretty cool GSA too. Like, it was definitely a lot more organized than, like, the one at the high school.
Nice.
And so, yeah, like, that's kind of the first introduction I had about it. And that led into me learning about, like, the Trevor Project, like, all the organizations like that. And then for the GSA field trip we went on that year, we went to the, what's it called? The Youth Summit? We went to the Encircle Youth Summit. and it was really cool to like see everyone from Encircle there and like see like, oh yeah, no, like I have this huge community, like Dan frickin' Reynolds is here, like supporting it, like so yeah, like that was kind of the introduction I had.
Okay, so I'm curious too. So, like if you, it still amazes me that you're only 16. You're so bright, by the way, and so intelligent. So if you could go back a few years ago, think about your closeted self. What is something, it's kind of a cliche question, right? But important. What is something that you wish you could have heard or that somebody had told you?
I just wish I could have known about like the things that are easier about it than you think it's going to be, and like the things that are you maybe haven't thought about that are harder than you think it's going to be. Like coming to terms with like your sexuality like has never been like that big of a problem for me. But when I was like still trying to figure myself out, I was so stressed about it. Like I felt like I had to know like my sexuality and my gender orientation like right then and there. Like I had to know like exactly who I was in like 6th grade. And it just took like such like a driver's seat in my life. Like it was so stressful. Like it was all I would think about for like a really, really long time. And I just wish I would have known like, maybe I can like enjoy the time I have right now instead of just like, because I'm going to figure it out either way. It doesn't need to be right now.
The thing that I wish I could have been told before coming out is a few different things. Let me know what you think about them. My first one would be it won't go as you think it will. Meaning it could, and that could be for both sides, right? It could go a lot better, it could go a lot worse. But when I came out, there were so many surprises along the way. There were surprises among people that I thought were going to be like, whoa, that all of a sudden, like my best friend, right, is a guy named Colton. Colton and I have been like platonic, like he's my brother, right? Like I have never, the idea of like doing anything romantic with Colton is horrifying to me. Like, no, that's my brother.
I have a friend like that.
But I was worried when I came out. I was like Colton and I have like shared beds together. Like we were on a soccer team together. He's gonna be super weird with me and all of these sorts of things. It was a huge surprise where he was like, dude, I love you. Like, bring it in. Like that was a huge surprise. And so it will, no matter how much you think about coming out, there will always be surprises, and it's not going to go as you plan. It's not going to go as you're expecting it. And like I said, that can be both good or bad. But I wish someone would have told me that. The other thing that I think super important to realize, and this one's a little more tricky, but I think you will always have like your blood family, right? But family is a word that can change in your life. And I think it's important for people to realize that if you are not receiving love from certain people in your life, it is okay to break a connection and to try to, and to go to the places and to the people where you are receiving love, you know? And it's tough. It's difficult because it's family, but like, you know, some of my family are my friends and the people I get to work with and play music with on stage. And I devote my time to them more so than certain people in my extended family, because I know those people don't love me in the way that I want to be loved. And you have to realize that. I wish somebody could have told me that. And the third thing, I know I've already said this, but it's all individualistic. This is your own story. You can write it however you want to. You can listen to Incubus if you want to. You can like anything that you want to do. Like this is your story and it is yours to define, and go out and do it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.